Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a watch that should be a legend, the winner of the GPHG Alligator Best Picture at the Oscars of Watchmaking in 2013. This is the Girard-Perregaux Constant Escapement L.M. And this is the original 48mm version. Now, the first watch with the design came out in 2013. In 2014, the rose gold model that you see right here followed. A decorated, award-winning watch with a unique constant force escapement. It's like nothing else in the industry. And it is big. 48 millimeters in diameter, it's 14.9 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 55.5 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see it's too big. It's too big for me. I can't wear this effectively. I can just about pull off the 46, but this watch has lugs that are over the edge of my wrist, and I think you could see that well from here. The watch isn't terribly thick for what it is, so if you have a big enough wrist for it, it'll fit underneath a jacket, just not the tightest of dress shirt sleeves. It is massive. You can really feel the heft of the case. The strap is built to match. You can see they try to mitigate against fit issues by drilling the lugs really close to the case and then using a curved spring bar to prevent any impediment to its motion against the side of the case. The pivot centers of the straps are further inboard than the tips of the lugs, so it does wear a bit smaller than 48, but not much smaller. The strap is large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather, which is a very expensive cut of the material, and you can see how symmetrical those scales are. Matte black, we have here a folded edge monotone stitch, no crimping, no gouging, calfskin on the bottom. This is a brand new Girard-Perregaux factory strap, and it's matched with a full trigger actuated double deployant clasp. So you can see a little ceramic spring-loaded pin snaps in here, so the tolerances will remain crisp over time. Twin triggers, the swing arm acts as the spring, so it can't pop open inadvertently, and it is a relief to have a deployant clasp with a locking mechanism on a watch this expensive and heavy. You can see polish and satin on the buckle, the flank of the buckle designed to emulate the lugs. And this is a handcrafted case because these lugs have been welded on, built separately, inserted into slots, welded on with all evidence of the weld removed by hand to create this sharp break or the joint between them. So you have a handcrafted watch with an elaborately handcrafted case and a beautifully sharp break between lug and case band. Girard-Perregaux crown, we have a bezel that overhangs somewhat. It has a polished outer edge and then a circular satination across its top, and then there's a polished flat flange that abuts the sapphire. We have a white lacquered dial with rose gold hands and applique logo and individual indices. 2 mainspring barrels, 6 days of power reserve. And I should clarify, this watch winds in a counterclockwise direction. I've had people call me up about these and say my watch isn't working, and I ask them, which way are you winding the crown? It winds counterclockwise, which is a little bit unusual. So if you want, you can just turn it upside down and wind it with your left hand. Now, the dial. Lots going on. The barrels, or at least the ratchet wheels, visible on this side, and we have a power reserve indicator. We have a combination of fine and coarse media blast on the surfacing flanking the works. And then you can see this watch is technically part of the bridges collection because all the bridges used on this Girard-Perregaux 9100 movement, with the exception of the barrel bridge, you could see that they are shaped to reference the tourbillon with 3 golden bridges. And what's on the dial side is the single most important part of the operation. It is a silicon monoblock, and the buckling blade, as it's called, that runs down the center is the key to the constant force. It is 14 microns thick. Yes, 14 microns thick. It oscillates, all of this oscillates at 21,600 vibrations per hour. That's the rate of the balance. The balance, as you could see, is a free sprung balance. And then here's how this works. There are 2 wheels. Each one has 3 cams. As this blocking mechanism locks and unlocks each side, the cam begins to buckle the silicone blade. It pushes the silicone blade a certain distance, and then the blade takes over and snaps to complete its motion. So it buckles in, it buckles out, and each side alternates buckling and resetting the opposite side. Take a playing card, like a deck of cards, take one playing card in your hand, compress it. Now use your finger to push the outward bowed side in until it snaps to the other side. That's how this works. As a result, these wheels never directly impulse the balance. What they do is they cause the blade to buckle, and then the blade, which always snaps using the same amount of force, it snaps only when it's got the same amount of energy each time. It applies an impulse to the balance through this rocking lever right here. And you can see there's a silicone blocker here that locks and unlocks the two sides, but these wheels never directly impulse the balance. Instead, this secondary rocker impulses the roller table of the balance. So this is a constant force device that's not a differential, it's not a remontoir, it's not a fusee and chain, and it uses the unique elastic properties of silicone. Remember, that blade on each side buckles and applies the same force every time because it takes the same amount of energy to load up and buckle the blade each time. And this is critical. This is the heart and soul of the watch. Incredibly, this started as a Rolex project in the late 1990s. The engineer Nicolas Dehont started the ELF product and actually started the patent process with Rolex in the late 90s, and it got to the prototype stage, but they were trying to do this blade system with metal, and it wouldn't work with a hairspring. It wouldn't work with hairspring metal. So Rolex never completed the patents. Dehont went to Girard-Perregaux in 2002, resumed work on the product, and brought it to market in 2013 using silicone for the snapping blade rather than the original metal as proposed by the Rolex system. And that ultimately is what made this work. You can see the watch has a dramatic center seconds and then a separate dial up at the top for the hours and minutes. Turn it all over and you can see that it is quite elaborate. Now take a quick look, and I was being a little bit forward before. These are the ratchet wheels on the back, and we have this lovely double ratchet locking system that you'll find on a lot of vintage Girard-Perregaux pocket watches. It's a gorgeous and incredibly traditional way of preventing a mainspring barrel from running backward. You can also see that the beveling on the bridges is impressively mirrored, and we have media blasted matte finish across all the surfaces. Take a look at the solarization on the wheels adjacent to the ratchets that drive the two separate trains here. And you can see we have one train that involves winding, and then the one at center that applies the energy to those two cam wheels. You can see on the reverse side, all screw heads have been black polished with chamfered slots in circumference. And if you look at the base plate, you can see even it has been beveled. This is as good as it gets. Now, all of this is conventional water resistance, so 30 meters, and two mainspring barrels, constant force. The whole movement is immense, 39.2 millimeters. This movement is bigger than most dress watches, and the total of the mainsprings in the two barrels is over 3 meters of mainspring. This watch is a gentle giant, an absolute pleasure to wear if you've got the wrist for it, and one of the most technically ambitious watches of the 2010s. It's destined to be a classic, and you can see it is just full of surprises. Everything from the solarization of the wheels to the chapter ring with its calibrations for the centrally mounted seconds to the quality of the detailing of the constant escapement system, every component of which in metal has been black polished. Deeply impressive. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of a watch that can maintain constant amplitude, constant force, constant timing for 6 whole days.